lecture series with recitation from the Holy Quran, followed by the national anthem.
الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
In conversation, which has been a regular feature at IAP House, Karachi Chapter so far. I would like to welcome Aisha to introduce our guest speaker for today.
Yeah. So I'm very pleased to introduce Arshad Faruqui today. Most of us know him in different capacities, as an architect, as an artist, as an educator, as a proponent of local crafts, as a curator, as an activist, and most importantly, as a perennial student who's always inspiring, learning, and exploring new avenues. The title of his presentation today, Beyond Architecture, aims to shed light on exactly this, on how one aspect of his work informs the other, and how the many parts work together to form an architect and his practice. For those of us who don't have a background on Arshad Saab, he completed his Bachelor's of Architecture from DCET Karachi and his Master's in Architecture from the Illinois Institute of Technology. He's been teaching at the Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture since 1992. He established his design house under the banner of Copper and Steel in 2006. He is also the founder member of Pakistan Craft Council, Pursukoon Karachi, and Black Olive Publication. He has served as the chairman IIT Karachi, Karachi Chapter, and as chairman Board of Architectural Education for the National Council of IAP. Arshad Saab has won the IAP Design Excellence Award, as well as the ADA Award, along with several honorable mentions. He was also recently awarded a fellowship from the IAP. Last of all, but not the least, he has been curating and participating in several group exhibits in and outside of Pakistan, often integrating eclectic artists and designers under one roof. Without further ado, I'd like to call Arshad Saab to come and introduce his work. Thank you.
Thank you, Karachi Chapter, for asking me to present my work. It starts with my journey, architecture and beyond. To put it in a nutshell, I studied at Dawood University. At that time, it was Dawood College of Engineering and Technology. And soon after that, I joined architect Habib Fida Ali. Worked there for a few years before going for a master's to IIT. When I got back, I joined Indus Valley as a full-time faculty member. And after a few years, I became a part-time faculty member and joined Ali Naqvi Associates, which later became Ali Arshad Associates. After working for about 12 years with Ali, I started my own company called Copper and Steel. Throughout my journey as a professional, I met a lot of architects who really inspired me, starting from Asif Saab, who was my teacher at Daud College, and Habib Saab, whose work I was really a big fan of, and I had the opportunity of working with him. In fact, he's the first person who actually opened my eyes and my interest for design and art and textiles. I used to make every excuse going inside his house to see his new collection and the way he used to put up his art. That's where I met Ali Naqvi, who later became my partner in my practice. Dirk was my thesis advisor at IIT, and when I came back, I met these three gentlemen, Arshad Saab, Akil Bilgrami Saab, and Shahid Abdullah, who were part of the founding members of Indus Valley, who actually made me go beyond architecture as well, and who always used to tell me to do things apart from architecture. And of course, later I worked with Rahul Mehrotra for a house he was designing, and he also developed my interest in going beyond architecture. At Indus Valley, I had the opportunity of interacting with Mrs. Bilgrami, David Ellsworth, Naiza, Shana Ismail, Amin J, and later Usman Ghauri and Nuraya Nabi, who I actually worked with in different types of exhibitions and artwork, and who also helped me develop my craft and my design and my art. It wasn't an easy decision to start my own practice. I've been working with Ali for the past 12 years, and starting from scratch at that certain age was not an easy decision. In fact, it was very difficult for my family to even understand that why I'm actually leaving a very established practice and starting on my own. But I realized that I had to do things beyond architecture, and just working a firm with 9 to 6 as an architect was not enough for me, and I wanted to explore more. Keeping that in mind, I started my banner Copper and Steel and purchased this space. And the idea was that when whoever comes to this space, they get an idea of what my work is all about, my interest in textiles, landscaping, craft, and design. They all came together. And it was just a buffer so that somebody, whoever comes, they get an idea of what kind of work I do and the kind of work they expect that I'll be doing for their house. So it was either, yes, we like it and we want to hire you, or by looking at these things, they say, no, we are not what we had in mind, and this is something which is not what we are looking for. So it was just a very easy way of actually going through that process. At Copper and Steel, the whole idea of bringing craft, art, and design together. So for the practice also, our houses are very basic and simple. I somehow don't feel comfortable on any add-ons or anything which is just applied onto that. As elevations are very simple, and somehow we feel that they don't get old as well. They have a style of their own, and it's a very simple one which does not really reflect the time or space, but it's more of these all buildings which I've shown, the houses. They're about 15 years apart, and still they look quite, of this time. Our houses also reflect the taste of our clients. We really feel that the house belongs to the client and not to the architect. Our tastes, we work with our clients, and the way they want to live, we try to accommodate their style into our work. Landscape becomes a very, very important part of our design as well. And whether it's courtyards or the whole idea of bringing things from inside out and creating these small pockets of these green spaces whether it's the entrance or the rooftop or even the side lanes, we really do go into the deep depth of designing these spaces. This is a project which is very close to me, which I'd like to share in detail. This is the first house which I got when I started my own firm, and also happens to be the last house I've just finished. It took 3 renovations, and the first, of course, this was designed in 1978 by architect Habib Fida Ali, and it was just a ground floor house. And the client asked me to add the first floor with that. I was very conscious of the fact that I respected Habib Saab a lot, and I shouldn't do anything which he wouldn't have liked. We came up with something which was very basic, and that's the direction we wanted our architecture to be. Something which is not overpowering, and it's something which is minimalistic, cement floor, plain walls, which can be adapted to the lifestyle of our owners or our clients. So this was done in 2006, and later the son moved out of the house and the younger brother took over, and then he called me again. He said, Arshad, we really want to work with you, and this is not what I want. This is something which my brother's taste is, and I want something which has more texture and more detail into it. And for that, we renovated his house in 2016, and according to his liking and the way he wanted his place to look. So actually the flexibility of the space really helped us in developing something which was up to his aesthetics. And then after 10 years, he got married and he had a family, and then last year only he called us and said that he wants to extend the house. And we actually added the front portion of the house to it, and the back portion he wanted it for his children, and the front portion was for his entertainment and family room. So that space again changed into something very, very different, and this is how the house also developed. I was very conscious when I was designing the last renovation, and I wanted to pay some respect to Habib Saab as well, that the house should have the characteristics of what Habib Saab also believed in, and I just wanted that it shouldn't take away from what he had started. So we had these very simple, basic lines which we followed, and something which we feel that I think Habib Saab would have also appreciated. The only thing which we changed on ground floor was the courtyard, which was quite dated, and we brought a whole new flavor to the courtyard, and this new staircase was introduced, and then his style of aesthetics and setting was done, and we did these spaces for him. When it comes to interiors also, the same theory we just carried on. We like something which is just simple, functional, and something which lasts. It's not something which looks dated after a certain time period, and it's something which actually reflects the kind of work they do. The Sai Clinic is something which we recently did, as well as Happy Home School's head office, we just completed as well, in which we renovated it and also created these spaces which were very functional, bringing a lot of daylight into that. And we also worked with the students and their artwork, and which was used as installations and as wall paneling. Besides doing our practice, we also started working with the copper craftsmen and started developing our own product line, which was this tableware. And our intention was never to actually come up with something different or something new. It was always to take something which was existing and with minute detailing and design intervention, just bring it to a certain level, whether it was fountains something as basic as a stool, and how do you deconstruct and change its proportions, and how still doesn't lose the identity of a basic stool, to accent pieces, and of course the craft which we develop as tableware and furniture. This is something which we recently started with the pottery makers of Hala and Multan. And again, we understood their limitations of how they work. And rather than coming up with something new, we took on their forms and just incorporated some contemporary designs to that. This gives us the flexibility to actually go beyond architecture and do things which are not part of our practice. Because if you're working on a small scale firm like we do, you can balance different things at that time also. So the Pakistan Crafts Council, Mrs. Bilrami is here, felt the need to actually document and somehow preserve the crafts of Pakistan. While working with copper, we also realized that I was working for the two families who have been doing this for many generations, and somehow the next generation doesn't want to continue with this craft. So it was such a sad situation, and he wanted to document the process of the copper craft, and also document the different techniques of etching and hammering and haath se jali ka kaam and all those things. We just took a very simple form of a copper bowl and tried to document all the different processes which can be applied to it. Later on, when Mrs. Bilrami was doing the Pakistan Pavilion, we were asked to help out with a souvenir shop which was designed by Nahid Mashruqullah. And the idea was to bring the crafts of Pakistani crafts from all over. So we almost collected about 45 different crafts, from stonework to wood carving to salt lamps, and of course the blue pottery. And I think it was a very well received place, because I think we had no data to how many people will be coming in per day. And what we thought would last for at least a month, and then within 4 days we got a call that it's getting sold, and you have to, because of somehow Pakistani, not somehow, but because of the efforts of everyone behind it, Pakistani Pavilion was one of the most popular ones, and we had a really big footfall throughout. And because of that, the souvenir shop also did very well, and it was a big thing for the craftsmen also to be recognized. With Amin Jan, the photographer, we have also done lots of coffee table books in which photography and architecture all come together. And then comes to my art and crafts projects, which I've been doing for the past 15, 16 years. Because of my association with Indus and the printmaking department, we had these group exhibitions in which I was part of, one in Hong Kong and one in Italy. And this is an installation which we did for the National History Museum, which the CAPS had organized. It's supposed to be, it's called Crossing the Line of Division, and it's depicting the qafla which comes from India towards Pakistan. And while I was doing this installation, there were all these people who were just sitting there, and he kept on wondering what I'm doing. And they kept on asking, Ji, aap dukaan khol rahe hain? And I said, nahin ji, installation hai. And then he came, he's like, acha sirf kurte hi tangenge? And I said, nahin, abhi kuch aur bhi hoga. And they kept on questioning me, and then he just couldn't understand what I was trying to do. And then he said, Bhai, bata dijiye, aap kya karna kya cha rahe hain? And I said, Ji, this is a scene where people are coming from India, and that's like a qafla, and traveling at night, coming towards Pakistan. And then one of them came and he said, Mahajir? I said, Ji, Mahajir. So I think, I mean, these opportunities keeps, coming our way, and we really enjoy doing these collaborations, and it's always fun to get out of your office and do things which are beyond things. This exhibition was a friend of mine from Chicago. He calls himself pattern designer. He's an architect by profession, but he's doing wallpapers and tiles and fabric patterns. So when I went to Chicago, I met with him and I brought 2 of his patterns with me. And with help of Coel textiles and Coel block printers, I developed these series of scarves based on his design and which were exhibited in Chicago. For Karachi Biennale also, we have participated twice. In Karachi Biennale 17, the one on the top, it was about losing our values, not values, but what it used to be. जो माहौल होता था कि सुबह हर कोई बाहर निकल के अपने मग्गे के साथ दूध वाले से जो है वो दूध कलेक्ट करते थे, but because of these Tetra Pak and Milk Pack and all those things, is a take on this commercialism which is taking place. The second one was a very, very interesting one, which I really liked for the Karachi Biennale 19. What we did was that a map of Karachi was developed and screen printed on 2x2 squares. And each artist was given a square, and it was their way of interpreting what they felt about Karachi and about that area. I don't know if you can notice, but these road lines, we had asked them not to be touched. So when they all came together, it was like a making of a jigsaw, which made the whole map of Karachi. And like Karachi, it was a very diversified way of looking at it. It's something which you have a Kachi Abadi right next to a very high-end society, and that's what it was depicting. We did some fun exhibitions as well, Architecture Beyond Board, with Najib is here, and Tariq Hassan and Tariq Kaisar, and then later we did the 7 Deadly Sins, in which most of the architects were given one sin and one space to depict their installation. We also encourage, and I really like these collaborative work which I keep on doing. Aisha is here, she was part of the first product design which we did. That's her lamp and also the cover of that. And then recently we did another product exhibition in which we not only included the artists and architects, but we also included these NGOs like Rana Liaqat Ali Community Center, special children from Ujala also participated, and Afghan refugee women who also were doing embroidery. So their products were also on display. Becoming part of the Coel Gallery really developed gave us many opportunities to also work with other artists. Habib Saab is there and Usman Ghauri. Unfortunately, both of them are not with us anymore, but they were part of this was the first gallery committee meeting. And the idea was to have not just art, but also craft as one of the main displays or exhibitions that we should have. This was the first solo exhibition which I did at Copper, and the idea was to understand the limitations of these craftsmen and to ask them to work with us on these contemporary products. The second one was called Presence of Absence, which I asked Shena Smile to curate for me. Her influence of textile really helped me in developing these things, and this was a take on the emptiness syndrome where everybody was actually migrating to other countries and leaving Pakistan and leaving their families over here. And we played with the idea of space, light, and created these installations with that. We again keep on working with copper and other crafts for our other exhibitions as well. This was something which started during the COVID when everybody was locked down and didn't have much to do, and that also gave me a chance to connect back to all the people who I really wanted to work with and have been working with them as well. My professor from IIT and another Mark Sexton who was with me, Rahul, which we've been thinking of doing some projects together, Andre from Dubai, he's a Swiss architect. So a lot of people, and then people from Pakistan as well. In fact, I asked Mr. and Mrs. Bilgrami to be part of this exhibition, who worked together for the first time for this exhibition as well. And then, of course, Naiza and David, who really helped me develop my skills in printmaking and always asking me to keep pursuing it. The whole process was आगे करते हैं. Yeah. So the whole process was actually that there was no physical contact with that person. The idea was that through WhatsApp, emails, and Zoom calls, how can one communicate their ideas and how we conceive their ideas and get it done by the local craftsmen. The process itself became very interesting. The whole process and the dialogue was all documented as part of the process and the interpretation, and how the first sketch of David came to this through all these interactions which we had. And it became a very, very good learning as well, where we actually understood what sort of work those architects or artists are doing and understanding their aesthetic sense and their detailing. Yeah, this is something which we did with Rahul Mehrotra and his wife, Notinda, who's also Charles Correa's daughter. And me and Rahul have been talking about doing some sort of work together. And this one, which you see, we received a copy of the original drawing of Sir Charles Correa's work, which he had designed for Gandhi Ashram, and it's a scaled replica of the light which he had designed. And then the second one was their sort of tribute to their father, the second light which they produced. Then, of course, working with Daniel, whose influence of living in Japan for many years, and how do we translate the bamboo fountain into copper, and actually working with the copper craftsmen as well became very, very interesting process. So the whole process of that, and then Naiza's idea of how does one calculate the weight of the cloud. It was called the iron clouds. And again, from that sketch all the way to the final product, this long process of trying to work out how it was developed on computer, and then the actual model in a brown board, and then into copper. And similarly, different artists started with their sketches, and through intense sort of discussions and back and forth of the designs, we came up with all these products. And the end result was as diverse as these participants, but they were all tied up with the idea of making it with the copper craftsmen and the material of copper. Pursukoon Karachi is one of something which we started in 2013. This logo was designed by late Imran Mir. Karachi was in news, but not for good reasons, and a lot of hangamas were happening throughout. And while we were starting to discuss that how as a creative community we can do something about the situation, Parveen Rahman's incident happened, and a few years later Sabeen Mahmood's, and we thought that as a creative community we have to do something about Karachi and somehow take the ownership of the city. That's when this Pursukoon Karachi was formed, and it was through art, design, and architecture creative field we wanted to take the responsibility of bringing small changes. Hatyar Nahi Pyar was a project which was done by Jabbar Gul, the sculptor, along with Nabahat Lotia and Aisha and few other artists. And the idea was to tackle the gun culture which is happening in these small areas of Karachi. The students were asked to bring a toy from their home, and about 80% of these boys brought a toy gun, which really reflected the way they were growing up, and for them this was just a very common factor that they grew up with. So we started these classes of exchanging, and we asked them if they would like to exchange the toy gun with something which is more educational, the games and the books. And Nabahat started taking the clay classes with them. And it was received a very positive response, and it was all over the news as well. Another project which was taken by Pursukoon Karachi was the renovation of Kent Station, in which Mrs. Bilgrami was the main curator and Marvi was the consultant. And this is something which took about, I think, few years to get it completed. We had no funds, and somehow we started that. The idea of taking it back to what the original building was, from about 20 to 25 layers of paint and plaster was on top of these stone structures, which we had to remove. And also, not just that, but the idea of these political posters and everything, which Mrs. Bilgrami had to give them a date कि इस दिन के बाद से यहाँ पे कोई political poster नहीं होगा, सिर्फ क़ायद-ए-आज़म की तस्वीर, and that's about it. And something which really worked out, and of course creating awareness, talking to the architects, bringing the press together, talking to the politicians about how to conserve and work on this project and how to take it forward. And somehow we did manage to work on that. While we were working on the structure itself, we just saw that there's a big need of seating area. There were no benches at all. There was only one bench, and it says "Sirf staff ke liye police station." And nobody could sit anywhere. And यहाँ की जो tendency है कि एक आदमी को छोड़ने के लिए 20, 25 लोग आते हैं, they were just putting up their potlas and sitting on them. We had no funds, but we had to somehow find a way to tackle that issue. I contacted about 30 artists and architects and designers. Ramesh was one of them. Mujahid was also here, is one of them, and Madiha from Shahab's office. And we asked them to design and donate a bench. I mean, that was a very, very easy thing to do because everybody can easily make one bench and provide that. So we started with that idea, and of course something which was just left for no purpose became a very nice cultural courtyard, in which actually, while we were putting up these benches and setting up the places, people were just sitting and using it because it was something which was really, really needed. And while the background was happening, the building exchange, this was actually also becoming a very, very prominent feature of that space. Unfortunately, since COVID, they had to put a fence around it, and now it's not in a very good condition, but hopefully someday we'll just go back to it and rectify that as well. This is the last one which I want to present. It was called Share Fun. When PTI decided that the government buildings will be open to the public, we went to them and asked them if we can have a children's festival in Governor House, which they agreed. And if you can see these 10 architects, 10 very young architects from, not fresh graduates, but they all helped us in designing, and one, Mujahid Sadiq, I don't know where he is, who was Mujahid, was also part of this committee. And the whole idea was that through science, through literature, through art, and through performing arts, something which we should give back to the students as well, that's something which they can learn from here and take it back to their schools, something which could have easily been translated. About 14,000 students came in 2 days' time. It was a big task. Their transportation, their food was provided by Pursukoon, and it was from all the way to the islands near Manora to New Karachi and Malir. All the schools were given the transportation, brought to the thing, and taken back and provided food. And all the, it was a big task, because the thing is that we didn't even know how to control that huge crowd. And I think with the help of, it was something which we wanted to teach them, that how to behave in public places also. Starting from basic things of not to fight while you are there, how to make a line and wait for your turn. And something as simple as that to something which was about understanding the city, about Karachi, Karachi's food, Karachi's cuisines. This exercise of Ghar Se Kait, that was very, very interesting, because while I was teaching at Indus, I asked the students to draw a road map from Indus to Civic Center. And about 50% of the students couldn't go beyond Clifton Bridge. They had no idea what happens outside that. Or similarly, the NAD students didn't know what happens in certain areas. So what we did was, there's a huge map of Karachi, and Quaid-e-Azam's Mazar was at the center, and they had to actually, through a thread, find a way to go from their house to Karachi. It was a very simple exercise, but then they knew how to navigate the things. Very simple exercises like the patterns which are made in Hala and Makli and all those things, to these molds which we made from clay about Karachi's buildings and Karachi's landmarks, how to use paper and the khattati ki exercises, letter writing, how do you write a letter, and everything was very, very, actually went through a whole exercise of what is the outcome of these exercises. And of course, recycling also became a very important. How do you make paper out of the used paper? What do you do with the botlon ke dhakkan, and how you can make art out of that? Recycling the plastic bottles, of making plantation from them. And also the beer did an excellent job of using these old plastic bottles and making it into a canopy which can be used in any schools if they want a temporary sort of a chat or a shade. So all these things were actually, the idea was that the faculty who comes with these students can understand what these things are and what these exercises are. And they were simple exercises which did not require any funds or anything, but with using just the material which they have, they can come up with clever ideas of teaching. And the result was, of course, thousands and thousands of bachas who have never been outside their areas came to Governor House, enjoyed the open air, and really had a great time. This happened right before COVID started. So the idea was that we should have it every 2 years, so that, because it's very difficult to organize such a big event every year. But somehow, we can't continue with it because it requires a lot of funds, but hopefully soon, if Pursukoon becomes active again, we'll be able to continue with these activities. So in the end, I just enjoy doing these coordinations, enjoyed doing these projects, enjoy being around people and always thinking of what next can be done. And all this is possible because of course, support from my family. They're always there whenever I'm out or helping me with whatever I want to do in the future. Thank you.
We now open the floor to question answers with Arshad Saab. Arshad Saab, if you could leave the mic on.
Hello. Okay. Thank you very much, Arshad. That was beautiful to see your experiences. I'm just curious, what about architecture now? Or how difficult or how easy was it for you to leave architecture and move on to another sort of paradigm?
Architecture. But the thing is that now I have the option of saying yes or no to the projects. And I only take projects which I think I can handle with all these activities. So it's not that I've left architecture, I'm still practicing. But yes, with these avenues, I always feel that there's so much more that can be done. So, of course, it was not an easy decision, like I said. I mean, of course, my parents were also very, not upset, but they were like, are you sure you want to take that step? Because leaving a very established practice was not an easy decision. But I just felt that I'm not getting any younger, and that's the time to actually decide whether I want to take that step or not. Otherwise, it will be too late. So, and of course, Ali has been very generous. He still says that our firm's name is still Arshad Associates, and you're more than welcome to come whenever you want to. So that question was there also, but that was not the intention. I just wanted to do all these things and a bit more control over the kind of work I do.
So, Arshad, how has it changed you as a person over the years and with the different experiences that you've gone through? मुझसे मत खुलवाओ.
Decision that I took, because I just feel that I have far more experience this way than I would have if I had stayed in just my practice. So it has given me a lot of opportunities. I would not have been involved in Pakistan Pavilion's souvenir shop. It was not because of the crafts which I've been doing, or participating in these exhibitions, or being slightly more careful on the kind of projects I do. So I think that's something which I've learned, that when to say no to a project and don't get under pressure.
But has your vision been altered in your design of spaces?
I think it has. I think I've become more sensitive. I think that the way I practice, I only get projects which people feel that I'll be able to do it. And I can't take on, when somebody comes in and they say, "Ji, koi bagair limit ke koi ghar banana hai," and I can't even take that house. Because for me, it's something with that opulence and all those added on things is something which I cannot even design. Even if I want to, I can't do that. So for me, that's something which I think more content as an architect or as a designer.
Arshad, through this experience and go beyond, because we are all stuck up, I think, in our own world. And it's nice to see where you are going and all the opportunities. I think it's actually opens up, it educates us to explore other, if you want to, obviously. ये नहीं है कि बस आप वो एक रट में फंसे हुए हैं. So I think this is very helpful in opening up, showing all the possibilities that exist for all of us. I think your experience teaches us कि सिर्फ obviously drafting board या design नहीं है सिर्फ. There's a lot more that has possibilities that you can explore. So I think thank you very much. It was helpful, And yes, some of the work that I saw, I'm not a very arty type banda, but I think it was quite nice actually to see. It's quite refreshing to be able to even just see it. So I just want to thank you.
Sabha, इससे मुझे एक चीज़ याद है, because when you said कि चीज़ों का, तो when I started teaching at Indus Valley, and Arshad Saab came one day to me and said कि Arshad, तुम time दिया करो institute को भी कुछ. And of course, how at that young age we say, अभी Arshad Saab बिल्कुल time नहीं मिलता, हम बहुत busy हैं. He said, अच्छा ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं. Then few weeks later he called me and he said, what are you doing? Why don't you come to my office for lunch? And I said, okay, I'll come. I went to meet him, and then he said कि actually आज मैं सुबह से जो है वो इंडस का करिकुलम तैयार कर रहा था, उसमें मैं बिजी था. फिर उसके बाद जो है वो सिटीज़न फाउंडेशन की मेरी मीटिंग थी, तो मैं उसमें चला गया था. फिर हम हुनर फाउंडेशन नया शुरू कर रहे हैं, मैं उसमें थोड़ा सा मसरूफ़ था. अब तुम बताओ तुम किस चीज़ में मसरूफ़ हो? I think, that's something which I learned from Arshad Sahab also. I mean, that's something which he really, really encouraged me, and he kind of took me under his wing as far as IAP is concerned, starting from first IPEX to the SAAC conference, which we did together, and all those things. So I think that it was because of these people in my life that helped me develop all these tasks, multitasking.
Thank you, Arshad, for a lovely presentation. I wanted to ask you, because your practice has been very interdisciplinary, so, and you started out with, when you came back with your master's from the US, and you started at IVS, did your education at Dawood and in the US, did that help you inculcate any interdisciplinarity or make you recognize? And if we, as being in an educational institute, we keep talking about it all the time, okay, interdisciplinary hona chahiye education, but how does one actually go about? Any thoughts about that?
I think Saab's office. He had a beautiful library inside his house, and us zamane mein computers nahi the. So one had to go through books to do some research and everything, and I used to make every excuse to go inside his house. And he used to say, "Mujhe pata hai tum kyun andar ja rahe ho?" But the thing is that he always allowed me to go and just to observe the way he actually displayed his art, his collection. I didn't know much about that at that time. But when I got back to Indus and I was surrounded by these really great artists and craftspeople and textile designers like David and Naiza and Meher Afroz and Mrs. Bilgrami and all those people, it really opened my eyes, and I think that's when my interest in these things developed. It was not at IIT also. It was just when I started, because that was the first time I was actually so close to all these things. And luckily at that time Indus was in a very small house, so everything was very reachable. And working with David and Naiza, and they were the ones who actually asked me to participate in the first printmaking portfolio exhibition, which was there to raise funds for Indus Valley building. So yeah, it was just a chain reaction, I guess, one thing after the other.
A special note of gratitude goes to U.S.A, one of the leading manufacturers of tile adhesive. They have a stall outside, so you can gather more information. They are esteemed sponsors, and we would like to thank for their support and commitment for making this event possible. Before we move outside, I would like everybody to gather in the front for a group picture with Arshad Saab.